Okay, so yesterday we completed the assignments. Today we are going to discuss about the remaining things in SQL Server. Okay, the very first one is CTE Common Table Expression. So a common table expression is a thought of a temporary result set that is defined within the execution scope of a single select, insert, update, delete, or create view statement. Okay, it is similar to a derived table in that it is not stored as an object and lost only for the duration of the query. A CTE can be self-referencing and can be referenced multiple times in the same query. Means you are writing this is a temporary result set of a common table, the query. Okay, so this common table expression, whenever you have a bigger queries, larger joins and where conditions, groups and other things, if you want to use that result, output of that result in some other, the very next query in your, you are writing a big program, okay, in SQL Server. That time you want to execute a larger query. That result you want to reuse in some other query. Okay, what this CTE will, how this CTE will help is that entire table, okay, that entire query, the bigger query, you can keep inside a CTE and you can execute that for you can reuse that query result in the next query. Okay, that's how the CTE is helpful. And it is just the CTE can be used to create a recursive query for more for okay, and substitute for a view when the general use of view is not required. That is, you do not have to store the definition in metadata, and enable grouping by column that is derived from a scalar subselect or function that is either not deterministic or has actional access. Reference the resulting table multiple times in the same statement. So if you want to, the four statements it says, so whenever you want to use a recursive query means I will show that example what it is. And you want to substitute a view, so that view you don't need to save the view into database, just you want to use that result at that point of time. Means you are writing a stored procedure, inside that stored procedure only that view required for you. Okay, the result of any select query, and you don't want to save that result for a long time. That time you can use this CTEs. And whenever you want to group some column from function, so you can aggregate some function. So yesterday we saw functions. So from these functions, the result, if you want to group by that result, that time you cannot group by that subselect because it returns some value. Okay, that value there won't be any column name, and you can't group by that column name, that dynamic column name. So what you can do is you can create a CTE. That CTE again you can use it as a table. There you can execute your group statements. So and the resulting there is a bigger query. That query you want to, the result of that query you want to use multiple times in the same statement, means in the same stored procedure or function. And you don't want to store that for a long time, only during the stored procedure execution. That time you can use CTEs. Okay, so using CTEs offer the advantage of improved readability and ease in maintenance of complex queries. The query can be divided into separate simple logical building blocks. These simple blocks can be then used to build more complex interim CTEs until the final result set is generated. So means these CTEs are very much useful for the readability. So if you write a more complex query with joins, groupings, order by and where conditions, so it is something like that query of some 10 to 15 lines of your query, and you may not, and that result you want to maintain for a smaller duration until your job executed. That time what you can do is you can use CTEs. These CTEs will hold that result for your next processing. Okay, the syntax is you have to use the with keyword and your common table expression name and the expression name, and then inside that you can give your query. Okay, I will explain you this one with some example. So we have two types of CTEs. One is recursive and another is non-recursive. Recursive means if you want to get some recursive results, like the results to be joined with the same table and get it that time. So recursive means, so recursive functions are there in C sharp or C. So calling the same function again and again. Okay, here also if you want to get some result and you want to join with the same result again, okay, that time you can use this recursive type of CTEs. Non-recursive means these are some complex queries. You will to hold the result of some complex queries, you use these non-recursive types. Okay, we will see with an example. So this is my CTE. So here I am going to create a table. Okay, this is employee table with employee ID, first name, last name, title, department ID and manager ID, and my primary key is employee ID. Okay, so I'm going to create some employees after that. So basically we will create this table and then we will insert few records. Okay, I inserted some 9 records. So if you see here, okay, I want here my objective is the manager ID is there. Manager ID means it is again an employee in this table. Okay, if you see Sanchez, he is the executive officer and his manager is 16. Okay, 16 is 16 ID. Okay, 16 means is David and his manager is 4. Who is 4? Okay, 4 is not there. Okay, like that we have many records here. So we want to list down all the employees with their respective manager names. Here how I can get that? So you have to recursively query your table. Means you, once the very first record if you process, you will get the Sanchez record. After that you have to see that manager ID of that employee, and then you pass that manager ID and get the employee information, and then it will return you the manager name. Okay, means it is you have to self join it. So if you self join it, you may get only one record. Means for the first very first employee only you can get the result, but for all the employees you have to get. So in that case CTEs are very much helpful to get your hierarchy. Okay, so here I want to see the direct reports of a manager. Okay, I am passing manager ID and then employee ID, title, department ID. These are my return level. Okay, these CTE columns I am going to get from my inner queries. Okay, with the CTE name and the columns for this CTE I am defining here, and then the select statement e dot manager id, e dot employee id, e dot title, and then e dot department id, and for the very first employee it will be 0. Okay, so for some employees there won't be any manager. Okay, so for that employee the manager won't be there, he is the starting point. Okay, 0 is the level from my employees as E. Now I am inner joining with the same. Okay, so this department I don't need. Okay, where manager ID is null. So the very first time I am taking my manager ID where it is null. For that employee I am trying to get the very first employee who doesn't have any manager. Okay, So department id I have here itself, department id, and then here also I can use without department id. Okay, so level plus 1, and my employee inner join direct report is D, and then level. So here also this is not required. Hmm, this DP is not required. This department ID also not required. Okay, this one. Okay, this is my CTE. It starts from the start, the boss of the company, and then it retrieves all the employees according to their level. We'll see the result here. So only one employee came, that is Chief Executive Officer. So his manager ID is null. So we got him. So it has to give some recursive. Let me check this. From direct report is I am passing manager. I am calling that union all, and it has to execute. Key. Okay, just a minute, guys. Let me see this. Recursive member union all. Direct report is, so it is starting from there, union all. Select manager ID, employee ID, title, department ID, and then from my employees. It has to work. It is giving only one reason. Okay, I hope you guys are good. Okay, now we have temporary tables in SQL Server. These temporary tables, by name itself, they are temporary in your SQL Server. Okay, the context, the scope of these temporary variables, we have two kinds of temporary variables. One is local temporary variable, another is global temporary variables. Okay, so local temporary variables means if you are writing some stored procedure or function, inside that if you declare a temporary table, the table scope will be until that stored procedure. So once the stored procedure execution completed, the temporary table will be removed from memory. And global temporary tables, these are actually by name itself, these are global temporary variables. So you open your SQL server, okay, and you are running some queries on this. So if you create a global temporary table, that scope of this temporary table will be until your session exists. Session means until you keep your SQL server working. Once your SQL server is closed, that time the temporary table will be removed from the database. Okay, so for local temporary variables you have to use hash. Okay, hash symbol, and then the table name you can give. The syntax is like this. And for global temporary variable tables, you have to use double hash. Okay, and the structure and other usage, everything will be like normal tables only. So create table and then hash table name and define your columns. So that is single hash means that is local temporary variable, double hash means that is global temporary table. Okay, and then these global temporary tables and local temporary tables, they save in your temporary database. Go to system databases. Here you can see the temp db. Okay, so all tables will be saved here. So we can see with an example, create table hash sample. So I'm going to create, okay, id int, okay, name varchar 20. Okay, I created this table. If I refresh here, these are local temporary variables, right? So they won't be saved here. So until this context is there, they will be there. And if you create a global table, then this will be saved in your temporary database. Okay, it has to come by, okay, temporary tables, one more column is here. You can see test is here. Okay, hash hash test, whatever I created here, and then sample also it is here. I have created some temporary table, both are here in temporary tables. Okay, so if I close this, only the first one will be gone, because this is only until this window exists. But this one, it will go off once I close my SQL server, then only. Okay, double hash means those are global tables, global temporary tables. The scope of this is until you are working with your SQL server. Okay, once the SQL server is closed, the table will be deleted, and this one until the window exists, or the scope. If you are if you are declaring this one inside your stored procedure, once the stored procedure execution is completed, this will be removed. Okay, so and insert, delete, whatever operations you want, you can perform on these tables. Okay, that is normal, like a normal table only. You can do all the operations. So any doubts on this? So only local tables and global tables, temporary tables. Okay, these two are there. So any doubts? Okay. So now the final thing in SQL Server is triggers. We have after trigger and instead of triggers. So triggers means mainly these are special type of stored procedures that automatically execute when a DDL or DML statement associated with a trigger is executed. Means if you are running something, so some insertion or updation or deletion you are doing on a table, after the table after the record inserted, deleted or updated, or before inserting, updating or deleting, if you want to execute some action, you can use triggers. Okay, after trigger means, so if you are before in means after one insertion happened to your table, this trigger can be executed. Okay, so in a student table you are inserting a new record. Right after inserting that record, if you want to execute some action, that time you can use these triggers. After triggers, instead of triggers means before inserting any record or updating any record or deleting any record, you can use this instead of. Okay, these are two variants in triggers. Okay, and the syntax is create trigger and your trigger name, and on table, which table you are going to apply this trigger, and for after instead. So for or after both are same, means before after inserting the record or deleting the record or updating the record. Okay, instead of means before insert, update or delete. Okay, with append, not for replication, these two are not required. As, okay, and you can use, so all these methods are not required. So you can directly mention inside whatever action you want to execute, you can execute that. Okay, so we'll see some example if there is anything. Okay, so triggers, we'll see create trigger student insert. Okay, on, you can use student table for insert. Okay, for insert or update as. Okay, so just print something. Okay, your record inserted successfully, and you want to get the name of the student, you can get by using insert or update. So inserted, say, declare some variable name varchar some 100. Okay, and then you can use select at the rate name from inserted. Okay, so inserted means the recently inserted record, the values, that entire record values will be held in this inserted. Okay, yes, begin and end. Okay, this is my trigger. So what is this? Okay, my trigger got created. So I will try to insert a record into my table, that is student name class is address and then DOB. Okay, values. Okay, I want to alter this one because, so anything if you want to modify, you can use alter. Okay, so my statement, I want to change this statement. So at the rate name plus record save or inserted successfully. Okay, let's go values. I'll give something called manage class BTech computers. Okay, is 22, address Bangalore, and then DOB some 2005, sorry, 1992 0708. Okay, so I'm going to insert this record. So no column name means this one some error occurred. Maybe have to use inserted is the correct one. Just to work for that. Okay, I will change this name. Okay. Is still null. Why? See whether it got inserted or not. So we have these records got inserted, but only problem something went wrong. Okay. So messages, if you see, you have this record inserted successfully. It is coming in messages. Result because I am selecting this name, no value assigned. That's why the error is coming. Okay. Now we will change this name and we will see. Okay. Okay, this one 20 and this one Hyderabad. Okay. So if you see this column is null, but record this one I didn't execute, sorry. So Karthik record inserted successfully. Okay. So this is what the triggers you can use. Okay. So even before if you want to create a trigger like instead of means before inserting that record itself, if you want to validate something and you want to uh, allow this that action to be performed or not, you can create triggers for that also. Okay, so I will see we will check one more thing. Create trigger student validate instead of. Okay, insert or update as begin. Okay, okay, which table I have to give? Student table instead of insert as. So I can take same thing like again declare what I can do. Okay, I will take DOB date time. Okay, select @DOB equal DOB from inserted. Okay, if date difference I can use the function. Okay, so the current date get date. So interval I have to take some year. Okay, and then get date comma his DOB and it is greater than 20 then only greater than 20 then only commit the operation, else roll back and print your statement like student A should be greater than 20 years. Okay, this is what your message you're printing. So I am creating this trigger So this trigger got created. So if I try to insert a record with the values, the age less than, okay, DOB is the thing, right? So DOB I will give some 2008. Okay, is that fine? So 7 years only. Here age. So these validations we need to implement. So his age is somewhere around 8 years. So the transaction ended with student age should be greater than 20 years. Okay, this message got created. Okay, so this is what this gives some error, and it gives student age should be greater than 20 years. Okay, so it won't allow any record to get created. If you see this one, there is no record, only Karthik. Okay, this one I need to change. Okay, unique key constraint is there, so that's the problem. Okay, so you can see there is no Harish record now. So Harish record is not created, and it says student age should be greater than 20 years. That's what this triggers. So we have only two types of triggers. One is after and another is instead of. So this after trigger means once the DDL operation, DDL means any uh, create, okay, read, you can forget that. Any select statement you cannot create on select statements, only data manipulations, DML statements. Okay, that is, okay, insert, delete, update. Okay, on these three operations you can execute these triggers. One is before executing that operation, another is after executing, after execution of that operation. These two are the main differences in the triggers, and this is important question for interviews. What are triggers and how many types of triggers are there in SQL server? So any doubts on this? Are you guys are clear? Okay, now we will see this why the CTE doesn't execute is I have mentioned where the level is equal to 0. So only the very first record is coming. Once I comment this, the where condition, it is coming the result. So here the result is coming. Okay, so uh, so SQL Server, any doubts you can ask me now, because this is done. So from now we have to the C sharp, the very basics we learned, and SQL Server also whatever we require for a programmer we learned now. Okay, for today's class. So now onwards we have to concentrate on the front end technologies. Front end means one is Windows Forms, another is ASP.NET Web Applications. So more than Windows Forms, we have very much importance for web applications. So Windows Forms we will complete very quickly. Then we will move to ASP.NET. That will take little longer time, but we have to learn and work there extensively so that it will give some opportunity for your career. Okay. So now onwards, please concentrate on more practicals. Okay, so yesterday whatever assignments I have given you, please complete that by Monday. Okay, for Monday class, so that from Monday what, so if you have any doubts or if you need any clues for this assignment, you can ask me now. Okay, so whatever classes we have discussed so far in SQL, you have to use all the methods. So insert 1000 records into student table with some random values. So however we worked in C sharp, the same thing I am using here, the same table, the same concepts. So you have to insert some random is, insert some records, means the names also random, means name one name two like that, and class also some 4 classes you need to take. From them you need to pick one randomly and insert for the students, and then same branch also, branch is not there, so no problem. and date of birth also, and then address also. Some you can give like address 1, address 2, or some random values you can give. That's also fine. Okay, and then even the leaves also you have to insert not for 500 students, at least one record for each student. You have to create records for 1000 students, the leave records. Okay, insert 1000 student marks records. Here I mentioned only 1000 or 10,000, whatever the number. So if you insert more than that also, that is very fine, because that will be very useful. The more the records you are able to insert, the more we can work in Windows Forms and uh, web forms. Okay, ASP.NET. Okay, so the thing is you have to use stored procedures, functions, other things, whatever you want. Okay, all the concepts you need to rewind, and then you have to use for this. Okay, the thing whatever you create here, this assignment is helpful for our ongoing classes. Okay, done. So here I am closing my class. Okay, happy weekend, and we will meet on Monday with we will come back to again C sharp, that is ADO.NET. Okay, so please prepare your SPs for inserting records into all these three tables: inserting, updating, and deleting. Okay, with this assignment I will add one more point. Okay, this assignment only. Prepare stored procedures for insert, update, delete, and okay, for all the three tables. And then seventh point is prepare stored procedures to retrieve the information from all these tables for the past parameters. Okay, means if I pass employee ID, it has to bring me all the employee information. If I pass nothing, it has to return all the employees. If I pass the name, it has to return the employee name. If I pass the class name, it has to bring all the students in that class. Okay, if I pass some age range, so all the students in that age range it has to return. So this kind of stored procedures you have to develop. Okay, so you have to insert many records, as many records as you can, and then you have to prepare some stored procedure to insert, delete, update for all these three tables, as well as to retrieve the data from all these tables. Okay, with the optional parameters. Okay, this is my assignment. So please complete it by Monday so that it is easy for us to move on. Okay.